picture. So this picture was taken in Brazil in 2011. And what we see here is the former president of the United States, Barack Obama, and he is sitting. He is sitting inside what appears to be a tent. So, does anybody have any idea why Obama is sitting inside a tent? Okay, so right. So I have some signal and I have some noise here. So I'm sure that Obama is not afraid of coronavirus because he's one of the lizard people who will rule over humanity. I guess, or not, maybe not. He's not on a camping trip. He's actually, his tent is inside a hotel room. So there is you see the very beautiful carpet here. This is the hotel carpet. So what's going on in the world in 2011 is that there is a big problem in the U.S. embassy in Libya, in Benghazi. It is under attack, and who is taking care of it? I think Hillary, and he is talking to Hillary to see what's going on in the embassy in Libya. So indeed, as Shimon said correctly, Obama is sitting inside a skiff. A skiff is the name is Secure Compartmentalized Information Facility, and this is not just made out of regular fabric. This is a very special kind of tent, where when Obama is inside the tent, it is very difficult to listen to all sorts of emanations. Yes, indeed. Electromagnetic emanations are very well blocked, and then he can pull out his super secure phone and talk to Hillary and see what's going on. So, why am I showing this to you? So obviously Obama has all sorts of very secret information on his phone, and he doesn't want people to listen to him, so this is why he has this gift. But I also have all sorts of secret information on my phone. For example, I might have taken a medical exam recently, and I'm very curious to know what the results are. Actually, some of you may be actually going through this as we speak. I don't know. I hope not. But I don't want other people to know what's going on my phone. So let's say I'm walking around in the street and I see that I got a message from the Shabak, indeed, and I want to open it, but before I open it, I want to make sure I'm compartmentalized. So I'm going to ask the people around me to step to the side a bit, and I'm going to set up a skiff tent, which I happen to have in my pocket. I'm going to set up a skiff tent around me, and then I will open my phone and see what's going on. So will this actually be practical? Of course, no. I'm not even going to do a poll about it. It's useless. But first of all, people won't agree to move, and second, I am going to be checking the phone every minute because if I want to know what the results of the test, I'm not going to be pulling up this tent every minute. So the theme here is countermeasures against side channel attacks. They are a big deal. They are possible, but you don't always want to have it. So I'm going to show you some countermeasures during the course, and even today I will show you one or two. We'll even develop them together. And I want to give you some structure to the discussion about countermeasures. So the first type of countermeasure I want to talk about is what's called a prevention countermeasure. And the prevention countermeasure is the really good, the ultimate countermeasure I would like. When I apply a prevention countermeasure, then the emanations do not depend on the secret. What does that mean? If I have maybe a machine that radiates a secret, I will have a different machine that does not radiate the secret. How is it possible? I will have to use all sorts of advanced mathematics, a new algorithm, or a very fancy kind of logic library. I will show you later in the course power consumption. I maybe have to do some kind of algebra or extra processing. And once I have this prevention countermeasure in place, actually I don't care what happens to the leakages. It's never contains anything about the secret. So this is a really good thing about prevention countermeasures. But what are the disadvantages of a prevention countermeasure? The first, Ella is asking, does it not count? Yes, so but it's possible. I will show you today. Don't worry. Maybe 5 or 6 slides from now, I'll show you how you make a computation that the computation depends on the secret, but the emanation does not give you anything about the secret. I'll show you. So, but the first problem with prevention is that it's not very trivial to run. You need to have, very good insights into how your code is written, and very, very good insights into how your machine is actually implementing your code. And I'll also show you today all sorts of strange things when you think your machine does one thing, it actually is doing something else. So you can't always do it. But even if you can do it, one problem with prevention countermeasures is that you go from what is called the average case to the worst case. So let's assume that I have some kind of algorithm, and this algorithm most of the time it takes 1 second to run. But for some very special class of inputs, it takes 1 minute to run. And now I apply a prevention countermeasure. So how long will my algorithm run now? Yes, indeed. All of my implementations will always run for 1 minute, because if it would take less than 1 minute, it would tell me about the secret. So if I have, let's take this to another direction. If I have a computation that sometimes it takes 1% of the battery, and very rarely it takes 1/3 of the battery, and I assume that the attacker can measure how much battery I have left, I will have to make the computation always consume 1/3 of the battery. So prevention isn't always the right thing to do. Now, another kind of countermeasure, which you could consider it as kind of cheating, but it's still very reasonable to use, is what is called the mitigation countermeasure. And the mitigation, in Hebrew, it means al-chakar, making something farther away from you. When a mitigation countermeasure doesn't eliminate the emanation, but it makes the attacker have to work harder. Now, the game that the attacker plays, the engineering game, is called the signal-to-noise ratio game. So the attacker wants to get the signal. The signal is the secret. And there is noise, which is stuff which the attacker is measuring, and it's not the secret. And the attacker wants to get the data out of this. And obviously, the higher the signal-to-noise ratio, if there is more signal and less noise, the attacker will be more successful. And if there is less signal and more noise, the attacker will be less successful. So can anybody suggest, let's say, a very simple and trivial way of reducing the signal-to-noise ratio? So I can either reduce the signal or increase the noise. So which one of the two is easier? So A, reducing the signal, or B, increasing the noise? Which one is easier? Okay. So yes, so A is reducing the signal, and B is increasing the noise. So yes, there is a consensus that increasing the noise is easier. Indeed, how do I increase the noise? I just take a white noise generator. Monkeys typing on keyboard is exactly what I can do. I'm just going to buy a little piece of equipment or make a little setup which just generates random stuff, and now the attacker will have to tell apart the random stuff which is bad for him and the signal which is hidden inside. So this is nice because I don't really have to understand what's going on. I can come to a system which was implemented by somebody else, and I can say, you know what, it's not secure enough, let's throw in a noise generator. This isn't always possible, right? As OL says, it's not always possible. And some of the problems with this are that the noise is not correlated with the secret, and then the attacker can do signal processing, for example, random. Thank you. Yes, exiting Vim. It's very easy to exit Vim. Just buy a new computer, and then you don't have Vim on the new computer. You can increase the noise, but sometimes the attacker can average away the noise. The attacker just has to work harder. And another problem is sometimes you have to have all sorts of compliance regulations. For example, if you are creating a radio equipment, you can't generate too much radio noise, because then you would cause problems for other devices in the radio spectrum. Or if you're writing maybe a piece of equipment that runs in a car, and you're trying to make the runtime random, maybe you have to respond within a certain amount of time, because you're a safety critical component and you can't take too long to respond. So increasing the noise isn't always perfect. And another thing that you can do, the attacker can create a very special measurement setup that doesn't actually measure the noise. You could put an antenna somewhere, or you can do a difference between two measurements, and so on. So why can the attacker isolate? So if I assume there is a system, and the system has the signal generator here and the noise generator there, because this is how the system looks, the attacker might put the antenna over here and listen very carefully to the signal, and the noise is just happening over there. The attacker can't hear it, can filter it away. Again, we're talking about implementation, so you can go all sorts of crazy stuff. So this is increasing the signal. How do I decrease the noise? Decreasing the noise is filtering, isolation, shielding. So if I surround the system with some kind of lead cage, if I convert the signal from electronic to optic and then back again to electronic, and so on, if I make a distance between the attacker and the receiver, and so on, this causes the signal to go down, and again, the attacker has to work harder. The attacker sometimes has to work so hard that it's worthless. And again, this is something you have to discuss with your system engineer. If you have a device that requires 3 days to attack, and this device allows you to ride the bus, then it's probably a good countermeasure, because I don't want to spend 3 days getting on the bus. But if this device is, I don't know, the Bitcoin safe with all of the Bitcoin that Satoshi has, probably it's not a good countermeasure. I would need to do something stronger. So again, I need some kind of insight to decide which countermeasure I like. And I think the very big takeaway from this picture of Obama here is that no matter what countermeasure you type, there are always drawbacks. So these drawbacks could be a reduced battery lifetime, could be a shorter range for radio equipment. It could be requiring 2 Secret Service people to walk after you, and so on. And sometimes the systems engineer will tell you, after I apply these countermeasures, the system we're trying to build will be worthless, so I can't apply them. So we have to be very, very careful. So OS is asking, could the attacker identify the signal by listening to the same signal a few times with extra random noise? So if you take the average of random noise, if it's the average of Gaussian random noise, is the standard deviation goes down the more averages you make. And the signal's standard deviation does not change, the noises goes down. So indeed, if you average many traces, you will get closer to the signal. The question is how many traces you need to average. And you can make the statistical argument to say you need 100 measurements, 1,000 measurements, 1,000,000 measurements, 10 to the 12 measurements, until you decide it's safe enough. So this is what I have to say about countermeasures. And now I want to show you a very, very cool piece